Hello, my name is Felicia Macianales, and I did some research regarding American media's representation of the normal American family. And I kept in mind the two different perspectives in sociology on family, which are the functionalist perspective and the feminist perspective. Murdoch was a supporter of the older functionalist perspective, which he characterized as a social group that shared a residence or, cohabitated, and economic cooperation was involved. He typically thought of it as the man of the house, the husband, going out and working a full-time job and coming home and providing financially, whereas the wife would stay home and do all the unpaid labor. And then he also, reproduction was something that he said was important. And so having children. And then on the other hand, the more modern feminist perspective, which is one that I also identify with, has a lot more flexibility. And unlike Murdoch, who believed that family was a universal social institution, the feminist perspective disagrees with that and doesn't think that you can put a label really on all families because there's just so much variety. And we see that nowadays. I think it's more open and people are starting to see that. But I wanted to see how American media represented the normal American family. So I actually gathered some information, and some of the examples I found were from TV shows, movies, and even reality TV. So, for example, the first family I took a look at were the Taylors. They're from the TV show Home Improvement. They're a typical heterosexual, Caucasian, white, middle class family, and they all live under the same roof. The married couple have three sons. Then we have the Kyle family from My Wife and Kids. It's a TV show, and they're African American married couple raising two daughters and a son in the same household. And then we also have the Adams Foster family, and they are from a TV show. They're an interracial couple who happen to be lesbians, and they are raising their adopted children. One of the mothers, Steph, happens to have a biological son from a previous heterosexual marriage, but the rest of the children are adopted. The Barone family from Everybody Loves Raymond is a Caucasian white family consisting of a heterosexual couple, married with a daughter and twin boys. They all live under the same roof. They do have the grandparents and an uncle that live across the street. The Baker family is from a movie called Cheaper by the Dozen. They're a heterosexual married couple, Caucasian family with five daughters and seven sons, and they all live in the same household. Just a lot of people in one household. The Newtons from the Beethoven movie is a Caucasian white couple who are also heterosexual. They have two daughters and a son, and of course the dog. The Henderson family is a family that has a single father who's widowed. They're African American, and they have three boys. He has three boys to raise and a daughter. The Tucker Pritchetts are from Modern Family, and they are a homosexual white Caucasian couple, and they adopted a Vietnamese daughter and eventually a son. And then I got the data together on a chart here, data table, and I broke it up into five different categories: marriage, reproduction, race, sexuality, and common residence. And so what I that 80% of married or families were a married couple. And I would say that that data correlates with the, functionalist perspective. Um, Kind of supports that idea that maybe, even though we think, or I think, that times have changed, marriage is still represented in media a big chunk of the time. 80% of the 20 families that I researched are a married couple. Only 20% of the families are unmarried. Um, so that just goes to show that it is still makes it seem uncommon if you are raising a family and you are unmarried. 20% of families have adopted children, and 80% have biological children. So that means that children are still, that idea is still out there. I know it's part of the ideological code that comes from, the functionalist perspective where you're married, you have kids, and, you know, that's just how things go. But American media seems to support that idea. And then 100% of families live in the same household. So again, the data that I found from these various media families shows that that perspective is actually still alive, and subconsciously, people are still following that perspective. There's some more conclusions. 45% of families were people of color, or at least had one member of the family being a person of color. So it's getting, we're getting some pushback there. I feel like media is doing a better job at representing families of all races, but definitely there could be an improvement. 5% of the families were white or Caucasian. So that just goes to show you that that is a very common family model that American media is representing. 90% of families are heterosexual, and 10% of families are homosexual. So again, under the functionalist perspective, sexuality, they explicitly believe that, the family institution should be a man and a wife of opposite sex, not same sex. So that is reflected based off of the research that I conducted on these 20 different media families. Only 10% were homosexual. So, based off of those findings, I can say that the older functionalist perspective is still alive and well in society, specifically in media. They tend to portray that or fall back on that perspective. It's changing, and the few examples that I do have, I think do a good job. Like the Fosters, they were an interracial couple. They were also a homosexual couple, and they adopted children. So it's nice that those types of families at least have some representation, but it can be better. I enjoyed looking deeper into this topic, and I believe Gittin's point of view over Murdoch's point of view. And based off of my research, though, American media seems to lean towards the functionalist perspective.